Hi there, and welcome to the Mindful Marathon podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Michelle Quirk, a run coach and pediatrician. Mindful Marathon is all about helping runners of all types to run their own race. Whether you are a seasoned runner or you're just getting started, I want to let you know that you're welcome here and that you're in the right place. Hi, my friend. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here, and I'm really excited to get into the episode today, which is called Building Your Running Base: Easy Miles, Big Results. Now, before we get into talking all about building your base, I just want to share a fun life update. So, a year ago today, I was at a Bruce Springsteen concert with my friend John. It was my first time in the pit. I've never done that before. And we had an amazing time. It was wonderful. And so, summer concert season so far has been a little bit unsuccessful. A month or two ago, Tony and I were supposed to go see Paul Simon, and the concert got canceled due to some health issues. And then tonight we were supposed to go see The Who, and we just got an email that the show is postponed. So we're having a little bad luck with the concert scene here in Philly this summer, but that's okay. I got to record this podcast, and we're going to go out for dinner in a minute. So if you're watching on YouTube, I am a little more dressed up than usual for the podcast. But yeah, canceled concerts, and a reminder that our rock legends are aging. And I suppose that we are all aging. So, a reminder to go for the run, get the tickets to the concert, take the trip, do the destination race, all the things. So, all right, let's get into the episode. So, if you're new to running, if you have taken some time off from running, maybe you just finished a tough training cycle, or just because of life in general, or maybe you're coming back from an injury, this is really the perfect time to think about building your base. And if you've got longer distance races on your race calendar for later this fall or even in the winter, this is a fabulous time to be working on building your base. And we'll talk about what that means in a minute. This episode came about because I had a coaching call with one of my athletes, and originally she was planning to work toward a half marathon this fall, likely in October. But, there's been lots of things going on in life, in work, and given her seasons of life right now, she decided to put that half marathon goal on hold for just a little while and instead really focus on getting consistent with running and building the base that she has going. And she told me that she wants to be in a place in her training where she could easily ramp up the training to get to the half marathon distance in like 6 to 8 weeks. And I love her question and I love this idea. And that's what sort of sparked this episode. So maybe you're eyeing up your first race, and maybe that's a 5K, or maybe you have your eyes on something longer, a half marathon, a full marathon at some point in the near or distant future. But honestly, the secret is the same, and it's really not that big of a secret. It all starts with building your base for any of those distances. So, what is base training? What is base building? Why do we need it? How long should it last? What are some practical tips for building the base and mistakes to avoid? We're going to cover all of that. And essentially, we're going to cover my runner's question, like how can we get to a place where we have this base already built and then can do what she was asking, which is to safely train for a half marathon within perhaps a shorter time frame. And I know we've talked about this on the podcast before. A usual training cycle for a half marathon is about 12 weeks, but that's assuming that you have this base already built before you get into that dedicated training cycle. So, what is base building? Base building is what I talk about all the time. Easy conversational running. You know, if you've listened to the podcast before, you've heard about the level of effort scale. I talk about that a lot. The level of effort scale we have from 1 to 10, 1 being a brisk walk, 10 being you're huffing and puffing, red in the face, running for your life. We're talking about a level of effort of 2 to 3 out of 10, something that you could sustain for a while and where you could comfortably chat while you're at that pace. So if you're with yourself, you could always check yourself by saying a little nursery rhyme or just talking to yourself. But sometimes, my friends know this if you're listening, sometimes I will send audio messages to my friends when I am doing an easy run or even on a long run, and I realize I'm going a little too fast. I will sometimes send them an audio message to say hi. So that's what I do, but this is easy paced running. And oh, if you're watching on YouTube here, I'll show you. This is Daniel's running formula written by Jack Daniels, the PhD, not the whiskey. Okay. Jack Daniels describes base training as a foundation for runners to build weekly mileage and injury resistance before moving into more intense phases of training. Now, his approach emphasizes a significant volume of easy-paced running, supplemented by 1 long run per week, and also builds strength to handle the demands of future workouts. So, the goal here is to increase overall fitness and efficiency without introducing new stresses that could lead to overtraining or injury. And by new stresses, he's really talking about speed work and hill work and adding more stress to the system before the system is ready. So, this is really a plug for the book, too, if you're a science nerd and you want to learn about the science behind the training. This book is wonderful. And I also, in this moment, want to bust a myth, which is that more miles is not necessarily equal to better miles, especially if the miles are all too hard. So, base training should feel like you could run tomorrow too, not like you need a week off after the run. So, the emphasis is on sustainability. Okay, so why build a base in the first place? So there are a lot of physiological benefits, and I'm going to try to break this down in simple language here. So aerobic efficiency, basically that is your body learning to use oxygen better. And several goals of base training include building aerobic efficiency and improving endurance. Now, the physiological changes that are taking place in the body during this base building time, basically the body is adapting and it's improving its ability to take in and utilize oxygen. So, in other words, the more energy a runner can produce from its aerobic energy systems, from the aerobic system of metabolism, the faster the runner can race. And so, by building our aerobic efficiency, by building this proper base, we're setting ourselves up for future better race performance. And there's also a lot of mental benefits to base building, I think, and a lot of that has to do with confidence in building consistency and learning to trust yourself. So, a lot of that goes into base building as well. Now, how long should base building last? So this depends on the runner, but is typically 6 to 12 weeks depending on your level of experience. For brand new runners, I would say 12 to 16 weeks, potentially more, depending on where you're starting from. But that will give you enough time to get the body used to this new routine, get you consistent, get you really dialed into learning what that easy pace, what that conversation pace is for you. And sharing just a little bit of encouragement. Again, base building isn't wasted time. And I know a lot of runners are kind of like, well, it's boring. Do I really need to do that? I want to skip right to the speed stuff. And I just want to say that base building isn't wasted time. Think of it like an investment. You're training your body to be able to handle what comes next. How this looks, practically speaking, so the majority of the week is going to be runs at conversation pace. Another point here is that frequency is more important than intensity. So it'd be better to run 4 short, easy runs, like run 4 days a week, but shorter, than try to do one really long, hard run on the weekend. So you have to break it up a little bit. Like you can't just put it all into one run. So frequency is better than intensity. The other thing during base building that's important, and I don't want to leave out, is to add strength training. So this is a great time to work on your strength training, partly because you have the time to do it. So the amount of time that is spent running is a little bit shorter now than when you get later into a training cycle. Let's just say, for example, for a half marathon or a marathon. When you get into later phases of the training cycle, you're spending a lot more time running. And so sometimes the strength training goes by the wayside. And so part of putting it into base building is building that muscle of consistency, literally and figuratively. And I think that's really important. The thing about base building, it's not the most sexy thing. I'm pretty sure I've said that before. Speed work is fun because you get to switch up the workouts, you're training at different paces. It keeps the brain wondering what's next. And I know base building can feel a little bit boring to some runners. So I wanted to share some ways to make it not boring, or at least try to. One of those ways would be to really tap into nature and explore the mindfulness aspects of running. And you know, this is mindful marathon, so I'm trying to sneak in some mindfulness moments here, but let this be a time where you try to run without headphones, without a podcast in, without music in your ears, but really tap into nature and learn some new routes in your neighborhood. Maybe it will give you a chance to say hi and high five some other runners out there. But yes, really try to tap into how the run is feeling for you. And what goes along with this would be my second tip here, which is to keep a log or a journal and notice how running feels over time. So even if you keep this as a log in Strava or in your Garmin watch or on paper, I don't know where you keep your running journal, but after the run, notice the level of effort, write that down, and notice anything that jumps out at you, good, bad, but over time, the runs should start to feel easier. Part of what makes building the base not boring for me is that I've gotten to a point where I really love to run for the sake of running, and I love an easy paced run, and I would do that all the live long day. Like for me, it's actually a little bit harder to motivate myself to do speed work and to really focus on that when the training calls for it. And we can do a whole nother episode on that and why that is. But for me, I love easy and conversation paced runs. And then the third tip here, ways to make it not boring. The third tip is to celebrate small wins. And you can note those in the journal too. So things like in the neighborhood here, we have a couple of hills, and some of them are pretty beastly. And so, one thing I've noted over time when I have built my base, toward the end of base building phase, the hill that used to leave me a little bit winded at the top feels a lot smoother now. And so, I would encourage you to write down those wins, whatever they are, even if they seem small, and really to monitor your progress over this time because you'll be surprised sometimes. And then the next thing I want to be sure to mention and not leave out would be common mistakes to avoid during base building. And you can probably imagine what a few of those are. The first one would be running every run too fast. And so, again, really tapping into that level of effort of a 2 to 3 out of 10, embracing the conversation pace. That would be the top mistake to avoid. The second one would be skipping the base phase entirely and jumping right into speed work. I could see this happening, especially coming off of a really great training cycle. Like maybe you came off of a hard training cycle and you did amazing at this race, and you took a couple of weeks off or a couple of months off, even, and you want to jump right back into training and feel like your fitness should be right where it was when you were on race day. That's a surefire way to get yourself injured or burned out. And so do not skip the base building phase. Again, there are no shortcuts. And the third mistake would be to compare yourself to others instead of noticing your own progress. And I recognize fully that this is hard to do, especially in the world of social media and seeing your friends' runs on Strava. It's hard to do, I recognize that, but I want you to really focus on your own running, your own improvement in the sport, and your own small wins along the way. And I do think keeping a training journal is helpful for that as well. So, to wrap this up, base training is the foundation for every race distance, from the 5K to the marathon. And if you're in this season right now, you're exactly where you should be. And a reminder here that working on base training is like building the foundation of a house. If you skip it, the whole structure is going to wobble. And this is why even elite runners and elite marathoners, they do a base building phase as well. So we all can benefit from building our base. And so reminders to keep things easy and conversational. Don't skip the base phase and jump right into speed work or ramping up your training for a race. And if you're unsure what base training should look like for you, simply send me a message. I'd be happy to kind of walk you through where to start and how long the base phase should be based on where you are right now in your training. So, if today's episode has you feeling inspired to start or restart your running journey, I'd love for you to join me for my upcoming workshop, The Confident Runner Formula: 5 Secrets to Training for Your Next Race. We'll dive deeper into the strategies I use with my athletes so you can train smarter, run stronger, and feel more confident on race day. I'm going to leave the link in the show notes to grab your spot. And if a fall 10K is on your radar, a 10K is 6.2 miles, my 10K Your Way program is coming soon. It's going to be a 6-week group program leading up to the Run the Bridge 10K here in Philadelphia, which is on November 2nd. If you're interested in that, you can put your name on the waitlist now so you're the first to know when registration opens and get all of the bonuses associated with that. You'll find both links waiting for you in the show notes, and I can't wait to help you train for your next race, no matter your starting point. So, thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next week.
Thank you for listening today. If you enjoyed the episode, please share it with a friend. And if you have a moment, please rate and review the podcast so that we can reach and encourage others to tie on their sneakers and join us out there on a run. See you next time.